Silent.
Hi, sis. How you
Hi.
doing?
I'm doing good. How are you
I'm
doing?
good. I'm good. It's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
The hair's coming in quite nicely, I have to say.
I have
You
to
know,
agree.
I mean, this is only 2 weeks and I took it down to like the skin and already it's like, no, you didn't. That's not a thing that you did.
No, bitch.
No,
No.
I'm afraid no, we don't do that here. We have hair here. But it's coming in real nice. Like,
I like it.
as it turns out, like I have a cute shaped head. I'm very excited about
Ooh,
that.
I'm proud of
Very
you.
excited. So, but it'll be interesting to see like how it comes in. I got my waves going, so now I got to wave check myself.
Do you have the proper brush? You got your
Yeah,
bristle
yeah, yeah,
brush?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I could. I'm not going to. I could go dreadlock it. I'm not going to. Um, just
Oh,
because that's a
actually, I
lot of
think that
work.
it is, but I think you'd look really
I mean,
good.
I think that I would look really cute with locks,
I think you
legit
would
locks.
too. Like
Because like
little cute, like Cheeto ones, like the really
right?
cute
Because like
little
I
ones.
looked really cute with my fake locks, my faux locks. So I feel like I could rock a lock.
I
I just
think you
don't know
could.
that that's like work that I want to put in right now.
Maybe not right now during the
Yeah,
pandemic, but
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
after
Right now
things
is not
regulate.
not where I want to do it. But right now, like I'm feeling the look. I like my waves coming in. I've got like this really cute like one patch real strong of silver like right here. So it wanted to be
Wow.
storm still. Even when I took it off, there's like this one little Bancroft patch back here. And was like, keep growing. Come all the way forward. I believe in you. I believe in you. I'm not gonna take you down. We can be together.
It's
So
like I'm
I'm
not hiding you anymore.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
embracing
I
you
embrace the
now.
gray. I used to be really terrified of it, and now I'm just like,
I mean,
meh.
like actually, since you brought that up, like I think it was Tia Mowry
Yeah,
finally released a photo of her gray, and she looks stunning.
yeah. Like don't. I'm sure. Not afraid of it. Like when I did my colored gunmetal, like I really liked that as a look, and I was like, yeah, I can absolutely rock this and feel really good about it. So I want to encourage other people like to try it. Like I love the color of your hair.
Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
except for this like front green patch, but
Yeah.
I'm
Also, this
working
is
on
not the
it.
colorism that we're going to be talking about in the show, by the way. It's
Right,
a
because
different
we
kind of
are talking
colorism.
about colorism
We're talking
today.
about colorism today. It's a different type of colorism. But first and foremost, let's have a little bit of fun. Let's have a little bit of fun. Because the rest of the conversation is not going to be fun.
No, it's
No.
not.
So I'm trying to load like as much joy and fun up at
I
the
appreciate it, sis, because yeah, I very much
as I,
appreciate it.
as I possibly can because it's not going to be, a comfortable conversation, but it's an important one.
Yeah, it is. We have to
Okay.
do it.
And it's the start of one of many important conversations about colorism. Um, so before we get into that, like I said, I wanted to do some things that were light and fun. Just a quick check on how things are going with my hair. They're
I
going
mean,
well.
black chick, still black,
You know,
so
turns out, okay, still black. Okay. Um, that didn't change.
nope,
I
isn't
don't,
gonna change.
I
And if
don't,
it does, then something's wrong.
yeah, I really don't see it changing anytime too soon. Um, and that's, cool, 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 tight, tight, tight. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because I love my melanated self. Um, there have been some things that have happened that we are going to touch on as we go into this conversation. Like first and foremost, I have to bring up the fact that for the first time ever since it existed, Oprah was not on the cover of O magazine
But it's her
because
magazine.
yes, and Oprah has always been on the front of her magazine, with the exception of the recent issue that she did because Breonna Taylor was on the front of it.
Breonna Taylor.
And I thought, and I know that there are some people that are pro Oprah and not pro Oprah, and everybody is entitled to their opinion. I, for one, welcome our Winfrey overlords. And I thought that it was really a fantastic issue and article that focused on how systems had failed the community, who Brianna was as a person, and not giving people the out of, well, she associated with the wrong kind of people. She was in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong. There are people.
Whoa.
Right.
I'm glad that they didn't go that route, because that's a whole other reason to get mad.
Okay, right? But I love the fact that Oprah used her platform to focus on something on the community, right? Because there's a lot of people who use their platforms just to make a deal, make some money. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
Right.
Okay?
No.
I'm not. Like, use your platform to the best of your ability. But I do give more credence to, and I'm more appreciative of, me personally, people who use their platforms not just for their own gain, but to also move some community focused initiatives and good forward. And a lot of times when you look at big celebrities, sometimes they have some philanthropic work, but it's more so for the cred of doing that than necessarily believing in the piece, putting real effort and real dollars behind it. You know, there's the fluff charity work, and then the I actually
The actual I care about this shit work.
Right. And it's obvious that this is a I care about this shit work, because not only was Breonna Taylor, by the way, beautifully incorporated onto the magazine, but in addition, Oprah then bought out a shit ton of billboards in Louisville to put that cover on, and a call.
She's putting her money where her mouth is, but she's always kind of done
that Brianna deserved. And that I was just like,
good. I mean, it's Oprah.
Yeah, but I mean, Oprah's been missing on some issues before.
That's true.
Okay. And
you're not wrong.
Hey, there are some things that you just are like, I don't need to be in this game because I can't be in this game for whatever reasons, emotionally, financially. This is not a space that I want to play in because it doesn't, I don't want to say speak to me, but it's not my responsibility, and it's not an issue that I want to carry forward and then be whole hog tied to. Okay, there's a lot of reasons when you are in the public eye that you may want to step back from and not be a part of certain.
Do you think that that's the same for like Dave Chappelle? Because I mean, like, a lot of people were looking for him to be like at the spearhead in the front of this. And when he released 1846, he was like, I know people have been wanting to hear from me, but like, I've been talking about this stuff for a long time. I thought it was time for the younger folks who are already taking the lead to have their time.
I think the thing that you have to do when you are thinking about Dave Chappelle and all the things that are happening is that a lot of times I feel that parts of the community or big chunks of people almost as a burden put on known activists, celebrities, or known voices in the space to take the action so they don't have to. It almost feels like a, for lack of better term, scapegoating.
Okay.
Because I know that, when this kind of stuff happens, Dave goes out there and he rips people a new one and he does all this talk. So I just have to wait for Dave to do that. And then I could be like, yeah, Dave, do that. As opposed to let me go out and use my voice. Let me find my platform and do that. And so I think that there is a fine line that you have to walk between being a leader and inspiring leadership. Okay. And so, like, when all these things happen, I watched Chappelle's 846, right? And I had to agree with the man because he was like, look, like, you guys are out there, you're already marching, you're not letting up, you're calling for truth to power. You don't need me to do that for you. You're already doing it. And I am perfectly fine to take this step back and let you do that. because we as a generation have to do that. We have to come up with that voice now. We have to come up with the biting satire, and we have to be the ones to
You're
not
right.
let up on the calls for those things. We can't just rely on the old guard to do it. And I feel like that's a lot of times why movements die, and they're just moments as opposed to movements. We get all riled up in the movement. We do a march, okay?
And we say we're all done.
Okay.
Up there, I marched. Good for me.
We marched. I held up the sign. Okay, I was in the Facebook group, and I brought 15 people to the group, and like I did my part, and so woo, that's fixed. Glad we did that. That, and it just becomes a flash in the past, flash in the pan type, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with this thing, without the Dave Chappelle's and without the, like I would say, the traditional guard, the Jesse Jacksons and
the Al Sharptons,
all of those known old guard that always have been associated with the movement. You have the DeRay Mickelsons, and you have the various chapters of BLM pop up, and you have now these other folks. I forget what her name is, but the woman that did the analogy, which I thought was just so accurate about slavery being very similar to playing a game of Monopoly, where you can't win because you're forced to play
for 400 years. We weren't even allowed to play the game. Then for like the last 50 we were allowed to, but there were all these things against you.
Right. All the money that you made, you had to pay to the person you were playing against. So how do you
win? You
how
don't.
do you win? And how do you have equity? And why get so upset when you're like, you don't understand why we're burning down our target, and it's because it's not our target.
Ours. Nothing is ours.
And I'm so sorry because I'm blanking on her name right now.
Oh, but that was such a powerful piece. Like that shook me.
And it's really important because I think that was the most raw, but also most simplest, I think, explanation that anybody can understand.
I agree.
To explain how people were feeling in that moment and how they continue to feel. Okay, we continue to see protests happening all over the country, not just in Louisville. They're still happening in Louisville. They're still happening in Michigan. They're still happening in Washington State. They're still happening in Atlanta. That wasn't a flash in the pan moment. And there are more things that have now come up after that with, Elijah coming back into the media. I didn't even remember Elijah. And
the violinist.
Yeah.
Who was just walking home, right?
Yeah, but was on the spectrum and was believed to be somebody that he wasn't, and was just trying desperately to explain that he was different and that, he was having issues, but he was different and was trying to comply, and he still was killed. Kid.
Yeah.
And so I think that you can't just, and I think it's very easy for people sometimes to be like, I'm going to wait for somebody else to start it or somebody else to do the main work, and then I'll come along. It's kind of like a group project in high school and college. Like there's always somebody in the group who is like, hey, I will get like the binder and I will print it out and I'll format the doc, but like they don't do as much effort as other people that carried.
Yes.
And there's
I was that person who practically did the whole report and had it all done. And when it came time to do the oral presentation, the other 3 people never knew what to say because they didn't do the work. And then they would all get shittier grades because they didn't put the effort in.
I'm just putting out a message on our Facebook page to remind people that we're live right now. So, because I don't think that we did that this morning, and we probably would have done that this morning because this is a big conversation.
Yes, it's a huge conversation.
But I do think that it's often when you look at team structure, I think that it's kind of human nature to see like the natural like apex leader pop up, and then there's the obvious, okay, well, that's the alpha, so I'm going to follow, right? And you have some that fall into that category, will still do work, but are looking for a leader to tell them what to do, as opposed to, oh, obviously I'm the leader, so I'm going to tell people what to do. And then you have the kind of in the back of the group folks who are like, I'm just here to get this A. So I showed up and I'm happy to warm the bench.
I could never stand those people in school. But I also was that kid who really liked school, even though I hated school.
I love
that makes sense.
I also really I was that kid that really loved school, even though I hated school. Wait, how does that work, like as a statement?
So like I liked having someplace to go and being part of this big massive thing. Now, mind you, most of the people in my high school did not like me very much. I was too white for the black kids, and I was too brown for the white kids, and the kids in between were scattered.
Okay.
So while I loved school, like I loved learning, it was very much something I liked doing. The social aspects of school, I absolutely hated. Okay. And actually, it's going to tie into our conversation today.
Yeah. That's fair. I think that, you know, let's segue into that, because that's, I think, really important. I think a lot of times there are the assumptions of what school experience is for various people. I think many times we kind of look to media to define what that experience is like or supposed to be like. And then we try to hold our own experiences up to what we see in the media and go, if it's not that, if it's less than, then
I did something wrong.
I did something wrong, or I had a shitty experience, right?
Expectation versus reality.
Right. And we set the expectation not against reality, but against a fiction.
A fantasy of expectation.
Right. And it's not even necessarily our fantasy of it. It is whoever the writers are of the media, their fantasy version of that thing. I think that's, for me, part of the reason why I also would say that, like, I loved school and I also did not love school.
Yep.
For similar reasons. I was a very curious child. And as such, I am a very curious adult. And so I loved going to school to learn. I loved absorbing knowledge. I loved being exposed to new knowledge and new stories and history, and not so much like the higher level maths. Like pretty much after algebra, I was like, no, this is not for me. But I do think that, similar to you, for two reasons, I also did not enjoy school, because I was setting my expectation of what my school life should be like and the experiences that I should have against what I was being fed in the media, because that's all I knew to pull from.
Right.
You know, going through elementary school, before my first day of school, I did not experience school. So my only ability to understand what a school experience should be like was what I saw on TV. I didn't have neighbors next door that were my same age or older to tell me what it was going to be like. So my only ground setting for that foundation was media.
Now, I went to preschool. Like, our parents put me in preschool.
Yes, you went to preschool.
Did you go to preschool?
No, I did not go to preschool.
Whoa.
No, I did not go to preschool.
So it's like preschool, not preschool. Discuss.
So not preschool. Now, what was different between the both of us was it really wasn't felt that I needed to go to preschool because
Oh, because I was dumb. Got it.
no, different situation. So when I was coming up, when our mom went back to work, we had living in the house on the second and third floor some of our cousins,
Okay.
our older cousins. One of them, who was basically my babysitter because mom went back to work, well, her mom was a retired teacher. As
Oh, so you kind of had like a built-in
so
preschool
I
at
had
home.
a built-in preschool because every day when mom went to work, my babysitter would take me to her parents' house because she was acting as a secretary for her father. And so while we were there, I was just absorbed by her mom and her grandma.
So wait, she was your babysitter, but she was also moonlighting as a secretary. So she was being paid to be a secretary and a babysitter, even though her mom was practically watching you.
Basically, yeah.
Not a bad deal.
Yeah, during the day because we went over there. And then after she did her time doing the work for her dad, we'd come back to the house and she would take care of me until, mom came home. And so I would play with her kids, our cousins, all day long on the second and third floor. So I didn't go to pre-K, but
But you got a pre-K education, though.
I had a much more than pre-K education. When I went into kindergarten, I could write my name in cursive. I could
Yeah,
read
I
and write
couldn't.
cursive in first grade.
I didn't get cursive till third grade. And now they don't even teach it anymore. Can you believe that?
First of all, no, but most kids didn't get cursive until third grade. Like that's
Right.
so
That's when you start it. No, I mean, that's when you
Right.
started it because
So
now they don't teach it. It's not in
kindergarten for me
curriculum
was a
anymore.
very, very difficult time because I came in and I was like, what you mean ABC? Yeah, duh, all the alphabet and the 1, 2, 3s, and also I could do basic math. And oh, by the way, I could write my name in cursive. I got in trouble for writing my name in cursive on my papers because they'd be like, write your name. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to write my name. So I would write my name on paperwork and hand it in. And none of the other kids could read it, so they didn't know whose paper it was. And I'm like, they had to have
See, you be rising and they just want to knock you down.
Yeah, they're just like, I'm sorry, but like, no, you need to come down because it was unheard of at the time from my school to skip me a grade. And that was a conversation that our parents had very early on into kindergarten because I was just so far past where all the kids were in kindergarten.
Whereas I was not.
That was a different situation though. But in speaking to the colorism part of those things, right? The piece of that is that my school really fought against the request because after about 2 months, I was just bored because we weren't doing anything in that class that challenged me because I already knew how to read and I could write. And I was beyond, 5 plus 5 mathematics. I had done that shit 2 years ago. Okay, I was doing double and triple digit math over at my babysitter's house before I started kindergarten. I also had to start a year later than most people because of where my birthday fell for our district.
I wonder if that's still something that happens.
I don't know, but so I was 6 going on 7 when I went to kindergarten because my birthday fell in February.
I mean, it still does every year. It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed. So our parents, it was like 2 months in, requested a conversation to meet with Mrs. McDonald and Mrs. Babson, my kindergarten teachers, along with the principal, because they were concerned and were, frankly, our mom was like, you need to skip her forward because she's completely bored. She is obvious from what these teachers have told us, what you guys are telling us behavioral wise or things that you're seeing, this kindergarten class is nothing for her. And so mom was like, you need to move her forward because obviously she's that smart, and put her into first grade where she'll have some kind of challenge. And the school district was adamant that that was not going to happen. That didn't make sense. They didn't need to do that. I just had these couple of pockets of things. And I remember that the teachers in the meeting with the principal sided with the principal, as opposed to in all the other meetings up until that point, they had sided with mom.
How convenient.
And part of that, I'm absolutely sure, has to do with the fact because that last meeting that was with the principal and the two teachers, dad was also involved in. And so it was up to that point that they had only ever seen our mom.
But they saw you, though. So I wonder why they didn't seem to have an aversion to, because our mom was fair.
Our mom was very fair. And I think that they felt because they had only ever interacted with me, and mom always referred to, I believe at the time, my father when talking about me with the teachers as opposed to my husband, that they assumed that she was a single parent.
Could very well have been the case. And then so, dad shows up like, no, I'm here.
And so to have such a smart child, even though I had a darker complexion, as a single parent, you know, it's easier, I think, for women to champion other women that they perceive to be overcoming a larger obstacle.
Got it. Yeah.
When they're doing what you're getting at. Versus when they realize, oh, wait, no, this is just a full family unit. There's not a special story here. No, we don't need to do that. She's not that smart. And that's ultimately what happened in the conversation. And I stayed in that kindergarten class when in all honesty, I really should have. Like, if that was happening now and they had done an evaluation, there's absolutely no way that any school system right now would have kept me in that kindergarten class. Yeah. But simply because I was not the brilliant prodigy child of a single Black woman, single parent family, that narrative changed. And I wasn't that smart.
Well,
I
was clearly, sis, you were.
I wasn't that.
The system just decided to shove it up your rear.
It's okay, because then I wouldn't have met some of the people that I met, and I wouldn't have ended up in some of the positions that I ended up in. And that's, you know, for better or for worse, they defined me. But
so could you talk a little bit about, because obviously there's 5.5 years difference between you and I.
Yep.
So I mean, while we had a stint of elementary school together, and like, I think by the time I got to middle school, you were already in high school. Like, you had just kind of moved in. So like
5.5 years.
We lost that.
So there was 2 years that we overlapped in elementary school. Your kindergarten and your first grade. And then I was in Pickering, but the middle school that I went to was attached to our elementary school. So we still had overlap there for another 2 years.
Yep.
So it really wasn't until you were in fourth grade that our overlap ended, because that was the point where I moved over to high school.
But do you remember having any other instances in primary school?
Mm-hmm.
Because surprisingly enough, like, me thinking about it,
like, I have so many.
In the video, that my YouTube video that I put up where I reflect on my race, like, I didn't realize I was Black until 5th grade, which if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and do that. Because I talk about that. I talk about that shock. But I mean,
surprise.
Right. But I mean,
come off.
But then going back and, you know, reliving that and like walking backwards in it, like, I didn't see another person who looked like me until 3rd grade, and that was short-lived because there were 3 of us Black kids in my 3rd grade class.
There was nobody that looked like me until 5th grade.
And then one moved away like 2 weeks in, so she wasn't staying. And then it was just me and one boy who I actually bump into several years later as we're adults, but that's neither here or there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, I had an encounter there where all of my friends who at that point, they were all white kids because we went to the more affluent side of schools in our town.
Mm-hmm.
And all my friends were like, "Oh, well, now there's a boy you can like." And I'm like, "Well, I already like other boys here, so not sure what you mean by that, but Devin seems kind of cool." Sure, but like
Devin was cool though.
He's still dope.
Yeah.
Like forever dope. Like clearly was too cool for me. Then when I had zero game, still cool when I thought I had game. Like there was no way.
You have like 37.5% game.
Well, like now.
You used to have like no game.
Like I had zero game then. Like I did not understand how boy work.
Yeah, no.
Then. So
not
like
at
no.
all.
But no, I was just curious because I mean, outside of that instance, my big awakening really wasn't until 5th grade when I had my trauma. So like I was always curious if your journey through primary school and secondary, like junior high, if you had more presence, if it was more of a thing.
So I
in
got
your development
slapped
or
in the
not.
face with my blackness in school. Before that, I had not ever been slapped in the face with my blackness.
Like
And
your
my
own
dad-
blackness, like they took it out of your backpack and slapped
legit
you with
took
it?
it out of my backpack and were like,
Black.
N-word.
Black.
N-word. Not even black. N-word.
I know.
So our family runs across the diaspora. Okay. And by what I mean by that is culturally, we have a lot of mixture up and down the line on both sides of our
We
parents.
got the swirl going on.
Oh,
if you
it
know what we're
is such a
saying.
gumbo. It is like, mwah, it's all in there. You want a little Scottish in there? Woo,
Bam.
it's in there. You need a little French in there? Ooh,
Bam.
that's in there
There
too.
it is.
How about some straight up indigenous Blackfoot Indian? Yep, that's in there. Would you like some Creole? Of course you can have.
You want some Creole with that?
Okay,
Super size me.
You can have that super spicy. Also, here's a little bit of actual Spanish from Spain. Here's some Cape Verdean for you. Here's some actual Portuguese for you. Also, let's not forget all of the Afrikaans. Let's just bring that all in. Like across our parents, across the generations, there is just so much in there. And as such, biologically, the folks that we are blood related to run from extremely fair, blonde hair and blue-eyed, to absolutely gorgeously dark and brown. We run the whole gamut. And so because I grew up seeing that, having our cousins that lived on the floor above us who are extremely fair, and our dad, and then all of our family on our dad's side in Boston, and everybody around us on the North Shore who ran the gamut, I knew when I was a kid that black came in many, many shades, including light. So I never went, oh, that's white. I just was like, oh, you're light. Because you're light like this one, and you're light like that one. I thought like everybody was black. They were just different shades of it.
Oh.
That's
wow. Like, talk about the polar opposite of my experience.
Right.
Like, I was like, I'm white and I'm just a really dark and it's going to come off and I'm going to be white and pretty like all my friends.
No, and I'm just like, everybody's black. Just some of y'all are lighter than the other ones. Especially because we had, cousins that came over because we had all the sun in our backyard that would come and tam it, and I would physically see them get darker. So I was just like, oh no, everybody's just black. It's just some of y'all's light. Okay.
Wow.
Cool, tight. So that's what I thought until I went to school. And then it was different. So, and I didn't even get to go that far. It was 1st grade was the first time that somebody did something to me that they shouldn't have and called me an N-bomb, which I didn't even know what that word was.
Wow.
Or that it existed.
That was right out the gate.
Just, yep.
So if she's not that smart, we're not going to advance her. And then when she
Right.
gets there, we're going to insult the fuck out of her.
Right. So, I got slapped in the face with my blackness in first grade by a kid named JR. I won't say his last name because that's rude, but I do remember it because that's how big of the slapping it was. So, we were at recess and the boys had invented this stupid fucking game.
Of course, you always do.
Right. Where like it was basically like base kickball tag, but if you got tagged, you got put in like jail. And jail meant that like you were put on the fence and you couldn't get out until another one of your team members got a home run. And then they had to come and tag you out. So there were people who were
Okay.
standing by the base to make sure you didn't sneak out. JR thought that he would be slick, that he would actually pin me against the fence. Now, our father taught me that if you're in a comfortable situation that a boy puts you in, you tell him to let you go and no.
Well, you mean an uncomfortable position,
Uncomfortable.
right?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
meant. Uncomfortable. And if he does not let you go, you do whatever you need to get
You
let
kick
go,
him in his nutsack.
basically.
Yeah, you kick
So,
him.
initially, JR was just standing in front of me, but at some point in time, because the game was getting close or whatever, pinned me against this fence. Now, I was not a big child. I'm a big
I was.
no, but I was a teeny weeny little
You were a
peanut.
peanut.
And I was really uncomfortable. And I was like, dude, like, let me go. I didn't like being closed into spaces
No, because you
for
had
other
other
reasons
things that
of other
were
trauma.
that.
I didn't like it. And so I was like, dude, like, let go. You don't need to do this. And he was like, no, you're not getting away. And so I tried to push him. At which point he looked me dead in the face, called me an N-bomb, and was like, you're not going anywhere.
N-word.
I didn't know what the word was, but I felt it to my core, like this was a bad situation. So I kicked him in the nuts. And he
I mean,
dropped to the ground, and I just walked away. Now, I was not aware of exactly the kind of pain kicking a dude in the nuts actually was.
apparently it's really bad.
It's really bad. It's like really bad. It's like
Like you could tap them and then like several like minutes later it's like an ache pain, which to me I think is very similar to like female menstrual pain.
Right.
Like, yes, because we're going there. So,
So-
oh no, man, you feel the same pain we do, except
And
we
feel
can
it.
inflict it to you all the time, and we
Yeah,
only have to
and
deal with
at a
it
moment
one
notice.
time a month.
Right. And so JR gets up, reports me for physically harming him, bring me into the principal's office, and initially everything is, oh, you, young lady, did the bad thing because you hurt him. Look what's going on. All these kinds of things. I explained the situation with my lovely, lovely intellect. Being
Mhm.
held against my will. This word was said to me. I don't know what that means, but I felt really uncomfortable, wouldn't let me go. So I tried to defend myself, and that's what my dad told me to do. The moment that I said what that word was, everything stopped. Conversation completely changed. They separated me from him. They called in our dad, who at the time, he worked second shift, so he was asleep, trying to get some sleep.
Before work.
Come into the office. They had JR separated from me. They explained the situation of what happened to my dad. Dad, like, fast, the face went from, I'm really tired and I don't want to be here, to the fuck what?
Yeah, exactly.
And-
His face could shift very
Just
quickly.
real quick. And I remember him saying, so what happens now? And my principal said, so we have to send both of the children home. Neither of them can come to school for the next couple of days. When they do come back, we're going to move them into different homerooms. They'll have different recesses so they don't interact with each other ever again. And Dad said, okay. And he was like, let's go. And I thought I was in like the deepest trouble because I was like, if I don't get to go to school, that means that something bad has happened. Like I just got thrown out of school.
Right. Oh no, kicking boys in butts gets me out of school. I get no education now because I did this.
At the time, I didn't know what an expulsion was.
Right, this is first grade.
This is
You
first
hopefully
grade.
don't get expelled in your first grade. If you're going to get expelled, hopefully it's in high school.
I technically got expelled in first grade, but so did JR. And I remember that like dad put his hand on my shoulders, he walked me out, and once we got outside of the building, he said, "You're not in trouble. You did absolutely everything right." It's like, "I will tell your mother when she comes home." Like, he didn't go to work that night, took the night off, waited for mom to get home from work. She was all pissed because like I couldn't go to school for 2 days until dad was. They took me out to ice cream at Stinson's that night. I got
Oh,
chocolate sundae at
Stinson's.
Stinson's.
I miss
I
Stinson's.
remember it, and I remember going, "Oh, okay, this is what's standing up for myself." Like when I'm in the right, like works like
Ice cream. Ice
I
cream.
don't like ice cream, but I don't know that this is a bad word. All I know, I don't know what the word means. I know it made me feel bad, and I knew that he knew he could say it to make me feel bad, and I didn't know why.
Right. Wow.
And I don't think that he knew what the word meant. He had just heard it in his home used in that way to make black people feel bad or say that this is bad and you could get away with it.
Right.
And so that was the first time that I ever got slapped in the face with my blackness and then understood
that was going to happen for the rest of your natural life.
Not that it was going to happen for the rest of my life, but that actually there was a difference between me and JR. It turns out that he's not just light. He's something else, and I'm something else. And somehow that something else makes people
the right to right.
No, doesn't give them the right. I never felt that, but that being something else that I couldn't put my finger on yet because I wasn't equipped to made people feel uncomfortable or different or better than in some way, and I would need to navigate that. Like that's what I learned in that instance. And that's when I learned like, oh, it's not that everybody's black and some of y'all are just light. Some of y'all are different. And some of y'all's different don't like my different. Just because I'm different. And I didn't like that, but I recognized that in that moment.
So yeah, you clearly had a very different experience.
Very different experience.
And I mean, I definitely knew I was different from everyone, but I was also fat. I was the fat kid in class for a long time. Because I mean,
I became the fat kid in class.
Like we got some chunkies in our family. I like to eat. I've always kind of liked to eat.
I am absolutely fluffy.
Right. But so I mean, I think my attacks were always very much based off of being fat than they were black in primary school.
Yeah, mine were all on
up until
I was the black kid.
So, and then for me,
because then you came in.
Well, right. Because then there were two.
Yeah, but
and they're related.
Yeah, which made that more fun. Yeah,
but okay. So yeah,
there weren't more people of color until your kindergarten class came in.
No. Like I said, I didn't encounter. There might have been other kindergartners, maybe in the afternoon session, because I know I was in the morning session.
Yeah, you were in the morning session, but they were in the afternoon session. But it was your year of kindergarten that there actually was more.
Oh well, I didn't meet them, so
yeah, you should remember I was there all day.
Right. Yeah.
So I saw both sessions when you guys were in the portables.
Oh yeah. Oh god, that freaking shack. Anyway, no, I was just curious because obviously my situation is a lot different. And I mean, like I said in the video, I talked a lot about the experience in 5th grade where we were learning about slavery, and I got put up in front of my class with a friend of mine who was very different from me, and my male teacher, first male teacher at my school, by the way, was my 5th grade teacher. My first black teacher was my 4th grade teacher, who I loved so much. Granted, I didn't understand why. I think I was just like, oh, here's this person who looks like me. Not that I know what that is, but hey, we're here, and apparently we can be teachers too, which for the longest time I thought I was going to end up being a teacher. And
supposed to be a teacher. I was supposed to be a high school teacher.
yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. High school sucks. Middle school teachers hate being middle school teachers most times because that's a weird time for kids, as we all know.
God.
We've been there. But I remember, come fifth grade, watching this thing and then being put up in front of the entire class to go, who's different? And someone who ran in our family circles was a family friend, was just very nonchalant about, hey, man is African American, after we just watched this video of slaves being hit and like hung up in trees and all of this stuff. And like, this was like an old black and white video. So like there were lynchings in this video that they showed us as fifth graders. Not going to go into that right now, but it happened. And I'm like, no, I'm not, because white, if that's the case, your people did really bad things to my people. What am I even doing here? Like, talk about conflict, crisis of identity here. And I ran away from school, which I talk about in the video. I find myself at a McDonald's because, like I said, I like to eat. Mm-hmm. Not that I had any money to eat anyway, but it was close to home, and Dad got the call. And the principal, who was Principal Mazirius at the time, which I think was the same principal who was there during your issue.
Yeah, Jim and I got real close.
They were pals.
I spent a lot of time in the principal's office.
So I did.
I paved the way for you.
You did. You were a trailblazer. But he calls Dad and tells Dad about the situation and how I ran from school because of the topic. Because there was nothing else. It really was. Like, it wasn't like anyone said anything. No N-bombs ever got dropped to me until high school. Luckily. But I mean, still, it's not a great word. You should never say it. It's terrible. But I just remember Dad finding me at McDonald's and was like, "What? Tell me what happened." And I told him, like, we watched this video and all these people who were really dark, kind of like you, like, were forced to do all these chores for people for no reason. And they didn't get good clothes and they didn't get anything and they weren't really people. And he goes, okay, so we're going to get lunch because we're here. I'm going to call Mom. We got to talk. And that night, Mom and Dad sat. Dad didn't go to work that day. And he sat there and they were like, hey, Amanda, so what you saw today is true. Kind of thought you knew, but I guess you didn't. So here it is, 101 style. We are different. We are Black people, and Black people look like me, Mom, or can look like Dad, or can look like Rochelle, or they can look like you, or they can look like your cousins. And yep, but bad things happened in the past, but it's not happening now. And this was back in like the 1980s, like early 90s.
I think that that's a really good segue because I want to focus, now a little bit more on the colorism thing, because I think sometimes so many people don't understand. And really, it is a understanding and a lack of understanding that within, I think, every community and ethnic group, you have an entire diaspora from whether it is a class-based system, whether you like it or not, or anything, that you do have kind of a gamut of, we are not this all monolithic one thing, right? Like, you and I have the same mom and the same dad.
Yes.
And while there are many features that we have alike, one big one that we don't is that you and I are very different shades.
Very.
Very different shades.
Would it be safe to say that, like, you're more of a cool tone and I'm very much warmer?
Girl, you are absolutely a honey shade.
I mean, not that we should be using food here.
You are definitely a honey mocha, where I am definitely a macchiato. And that's okay.
Okay.
But there are a lot of people that don't understand how that happens within a family in the same generation, right?
Well, I mean, we're not in the same generation.
No, but people assume that
Right.
we are. And then I'm like,
No.
no. One of us is the Gen X. I refuse to say Zennial. I absolutely refuse. I refuse.
I guess
I rebuke
technically
it.
I'm a millennial,
I
but I'm
rebuke
also
it.
a weird millennial.
You are an elder millennial.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm on the older side of the millennial tree, so like I had
Correct.
some of the things.
You are an elder millennial.
So, but
Okay.
yes. So when you say millennial, you're not referring to me. I'm also with you like those damn millennials.
Yes. And I'm just like, those damn millennials, they out there marching, which is great.
Well,
Because
yeah, them in Generation
very
Z.
much like Dave Chappelle, I am very happy to sit back here and fund your activity.
Let them do what needs to get done. Time to
I'm
clean
very
house.
willing to fund everyone's activity. Okay,
So
everybody
anyway.
has their own lanes, but
let's actually like talk about this now. Like, hey, sis, what is colorism?
so the colorism really is very much a prejudice, and it is a prejudice based off of actually the color of someone's skin within a race. And so there very much is within the Black community so many different levels. There are many people within the community who don't identify as Black, they identify as African American, and they have very, very specific reasons for that. There are people that, do have almost like a class like system in rating dark skin versus light skin, good hair versus bad hair.
Yep, texturism.
Okay, like that is a big thing. There is, almost this pervasive thing within the community of the more Eurocentric your features and your appearance, the better you are. I mean, there's this whole bougie versus ratchet thing. There is this whole, and it all is based out of first shade and color and presentation of oneself, and then defining and valuing one's Blackness on said scale.
Have you ever heard of the brown paper bag test? That was a thing.
So I don't want to speak to broad experiences because I think sometimes that takes away too much from things. So
no, I only bring it up because I actually had someone put a paper bag next to my face.
Yeah, fuck those people. So I will talk just in my own family experience.
Okay.
Within my own family, on both my mother's side, our mother, side of the family, and our father's side of the family, there is a tremendous history of colorism. On both sides. There are people in our father's side of the family that did not like him being with this light-skinned woman that could pass because she wasn't Black as far as they were concerned.
Yep.
They had their own standard of what Black was. And it started with what your hair looked like and what shade of your skin was. And so there were people that were not happy when he started dating our mom, and they were even less thrilled when she became pregnant with me.
I mean, yeah.
They were happier though when I came out and whoops, I was a little dark.
Dun dun dun.
Except there were some folks on our mom's side of the family
who were not too happy about that.
Not too happy that I came out dark. Bum bum bum.
God, we were just fucked from the beginning.
Right? Like, again, just like you said, I was too dark for some people and not dark enough for
not dark enough for the rest.
Okay. And like to this day, it still drives some of our family members a little nuts that I have no accent whatsoever. I have no Bostonian. I have no Southern drawl. I have not picked up any of the euphemisms of many of our family. Okay, there's some people in our family that you talk to that you can very heavily hear the Cape Verdean dialect come through. There are some people that you can listen to in our family, especially on our father's side of the family, because they came up in the South, that have that Southern dialect, that drawl. I enunciate too much. So I must be bougie. I'm one of those.
Or you're just an Oreo, sis.
That was my face.
I got that a lot too. And I perpetuated that a lot too. And I want to stipulate this here now, that this discussion that we're having, like when I start talking about my experiences, I've been on both sides of this line. I have acted poorly in the name of colorism before. And I've also been very much a victim of it, which I plan to talk about today.
I fully own that as well. Okay. And I think
I'm not poor me. It's all against me. No, I am also a perpetrator in this.
Absolutely not. I have absolutely perpetrated. There are all kinds of things that I have called people out on. Like my favorite thing in high school was to call people ghetto. I would judge, and I would often click my teeth and then just be like, ghetto. I read people a lot. And I really should.
I mean, I remember hearing it even in our home. You know,
Yes.
Not that I'm, aiming to speak poorly about our parents and some of their decisions and their raising of us, but I always felt disjointed because, one, I have a very Caucasian name, which was a decision that they made.
It was almost super Caucasian, though.
I mean, it was either going to be Stephanie or Amanda.
Stephanie.
So
you were going to be Stephanie.
Stephanie or Amanda.
And Amanda was the capitulation, because Dad was adamant that you were going to be Stephanie, because Mom was adamant that I was going to be Rochelle. So he was like, I get one. And Mom was like,
right. So, but I mean, I remember, and this borders more on texturism than colorism, really. But our mom was always very adamant of making sure, obviously, that we were, fed and taken care of. And hygiene was very important to our mother.
Soups importantes.
Like, cleanliness is next to godliness. Wash your damn face and get your neck too while you at it.
Yeah, you were horrible about your neck.
I was. I'm not exactly great at it now.
No, you're not.
But I admit
it's still a very dark part of you.
It's probably the darkest part of me.
It probably is.
But, all jokes aside, our texture of hair is very different.
Very different.
And, when there were certain styles that Mom would permit you to wear your hair as, like, I think at one point, I wanted braids. Like, I wanted, like...
I was never able to get
braids. I wanted Brandy, Moesha,
so I have to clarify you here on truth, because no, I never in my life was able to be braided until after I moved out of the house, got married, and lived in Oklahoma.
No, but I'm just saying that, like, I was adamant. Like, I was like, because Moesha was really big when I was growing up. Like, I was like, oh my God, it's a show with a black lead lady, and it's Brandy, and she can sing, and I can't, but I want to be her. And I wanted them micro braids. I thought that was the epitome of what being a black teen was. And I remember going to Mom and going, I want to get my hair braided. And no lie, not deadpan, but like straight up, no bullshit. Mom's just like, you have too good of hair for that. And I didn't understand what that meant. Because, it wasn't until I think around, I want to say I was 6 or 7 when I got my first relaxer, which
you were
that
was the line. Like, Mom was like, I have to wait until we're 7. And so she counted the days until the 7th birthday.
Until you were 7.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that has its own, connotation to this whole mix.
And it's definitely wrapped up, because then again, it is on that Eurocentric standard of beauty.
But because my hair with relaxers, which I got, like my sister said, since 7, and I had them for a very long time, and it wasn't until I want to say my first year of college that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'll blow dry it straight, but I'm not putting this chemical that burns my scalp.
Yep.
And to get this look.
Mhm.
But because my hair did it easier,
Yep.
she always, was very adamant that I not do those type of styles because, oh no, Mandy, you have good hair. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
She's only doing that because her hair texture isn't like yours. You have the better one. And I remember perpetuating that. It's like, oh, I've got good hair, unlike some people. And I didn't realize what I was saying. So
because you don't,
this time I was self-hating.
Right.
Who was to tell me otherwise?
That.
Right. No one's going to, especially because everyone else in our family were also sipping on that Kool-Aid.
Right. And also believed it, right? Like
absolutely.
There's a lot of, within our own family, because again, we do flow across the diaspora, right? There is within the family, which I think is both a good thing and a bad thing. And it's good in the way that it allows me, and I think allows anyone that is open to seeing it, it allows us to understand these own microaggressions against ourselves and to recognize self-hate when it starts to come through so that we can squash it.
Agreed.
But it is bad in that it exists and comes through and we have to squash it.
Right. And I mean, like she said, like our family is very diverse. If you put all of us lined up, it would be this beautiful cascading from polar opposites of color. And I mean, not that anyone has ever admitted this, but from how I feel growing up in our family, if you were a certain shade or darker, I don't want to say that we were loved less, but it got talked about more than if
talked about more.
It got so like I said, we've got some cousins who are fairer in skin. And it always seemed like, oh, well, so-and-so is doing this and so-and-so is doing that. It's like, oh, well, Amanda got an A on this test and Amanda did. So it seemed like if you were lighter than me, I'm going to use me as the reference here, like their accomplishments were far more recognized than mine.
Okay.
Or yours. Or, and it seemed like there was this competition even within our family with kids. Oh, well, so-and-so got accepted to this school. Oh, yeah, well, this one went to this program that only the smartest kids can. So it was always my horse is better than your horse. But with kids in our family, at least from my understanding.
So I would say that that's not a incorrect observation. What I would say is that I think that's a dynamic that happens.
I think that happens in all families.
Well, I don't feel like there was.
I think competition happens in families, but I definitely think that there was an element. But I think there was an element of.
And I think that this is important, is that you have that to more of a degree, though, in families where you have big generational gaps, or you have within those generations big changes, right? So as an example, in our family, okay, the generation before me that was around us in our area, none of them went to college, right? Okay. So in our immediate family, as an example, when they figured out how smart I was in kindergarten, it immediately became, oh, this is the one. This is the one that's going to college. Like, this one is going to, this is where the
promised lands are coming and she's leading the way.
Legit. That's what it was. And then it was, okay, so that all of our kids are doing that, because if this one can be that smart, that means that they all have the potential to do that. Right? Because I remember seeing the shift in the focus, because like all of you guys that came up after me, there was much more of a focus of What are all the after school things we can get them in? What are all the programs that we can get them in? What are the good schools that they should go to, as opposed to like the neighborhood school, right? And everybody put in the effort and the fight that I don't think that they did for different generations. So I think that sometimes when you have, especially with immigrant families, when you have the vision that, oh, this generation can be different, then the focus then gets put on they have to
be
and
right.
therefore you then build that as a competition because, oh, your daughter got into the Upward Bound program. My daughter's actually teaching and speaking at this community college next month because of this thing that she's doing. Oh, really? That's great, because my son is now writing a dissertation. Yeah, he's only 12, but like he's been invited to write like that.
Right.
It becomes almost a, not necessarily I'm making my kids compete, but I am actually living vicariously through their victories because they're victories that I couldn't have, but I
Right.
played a role in them
Maybe.
being able to do these things. And so therefore I take greater
And that
pride.
might have been their intent.
Yeah, but not
I
how
don't
it came
necessarily
at all.
at all.
That's why I wanted to say it that way, because I was like, I want to be nice and give this understanding that I've gotten through therapy, by the way, to understand that that's probably where that came from and what was driving it. However, on the
that's not how it was possibly mentored.
How it
and how it was perceived
and how it was received and absorbed was not that.
So and I feel growing up that because of how I interpreted this tit for tat, he does mentality, that it kind of put schisms and rifts between us cousins across the board that were in a similar enough age range that like we could have been more bonded. Not that we're not bonded, but I just think the dynamic was different.
Right.
And our family was very
competition.
Yes.
Right.
So it's like, oh, and if I'm not striving to where they are, then I'm seen as less than them. And it just compounds itself.
Right. And it must be because I am not as light, or I'm darker, or I'm
fatter,
or I'm not as skinny, or I'm as skinny but not this. Like it does play a hell of a thing with identifying and understanding and defining your self-worth when within your own family unit, and then as a greater part to your community, because you see it played out in the media for your community, that, oh, this must be a thing, right? Like I remember, I'm sure many people do, like, remember 106 & Park?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So
I had to sneak to watch it because Mom did not want me getting ideas.
Okay. So I remember the BET music shows before they had anybody under 40 host them. Okay, so I remember Donnie in the afternoon, like playing all, like it was just R&B and like just a little bit of hip hop, like in the evenings. But it was pretty much like, Donnie Simpson and his gorgeous hazel eyes and buttery voice, and Cheryl like taking you through the afternoons on BET with Donnie's nice cut hair and Cheryl with her relaxed like chin length bob in her.
A chin-length bob, you say?
Yeah. Right. Until they're like, yeah, no, the young people are here and they want the hip hop. They don't give actually a fuck about Luther Vandross in the afternoons. So we're going to change it up. And okay. So
them's fighting words.
Right.
I'm 36 and I love me some Luther Vandross. Rest in peace.
Right. But like at 21, you wasn't about that life.
No, I still like Diamonds and Pearls. I would sing that all the time.
Prince, like there is no age group that you don't like Prince.
No, Luther did a version of Diamonds and Pearls on one of his CDs.
I know he did, but like that's Prince's song.
I know, but I liked the Luther Vandross version.
All right. Anyway, as I was getting to, so I remember all the hosts that they ran through on 106 & Park. And do you remember the community's reaction when the host started getting lighter and lighter?
I don't.
I do.
But you do. I was about to say you do.
I do. And so I say that to say that, like, when we look at the media that we consume and when we look at our community, and I don't care what community you're part of, when you look at your community, you have to be able to look at your community and say, okay, I see all of the beauty in you, and I also see all of the ugly in you. And then you have to go, and I have to acknowledge this, and you have to acknowledge this so that we can move past it. Okay. Colorism is a huge problem within the Black, African American, whatever you want to call it, community, because it is our own holding down of each other and holding ourselves accountable to these fictionalized, valued versions of ourselves. Okay. Like, as an example, I will often, when I have this conversation with people, I will point to a movie that a big chunk of Black America has seen, and that's about it. A movie called School Days
Yep.
by Spike Lee that runs through all of this colorism stuff.
Yep. There's actually a song called, I think, Good Hair.
Good and Bad Hair. Yes.
Good and Bad Hair.
All kinds of language that is used to refer to Black people that were actually derogatory terms that I didn't know, that were focused around presentation. Okay, I didn't know what a jigaboo was until I saw that movie. And then I was like, I have to find out what this is. And I had to go to a library because I didn't have the internet.
Right.
Jenna had to go to a library to look it up. And guess what? I was real surprised.
So I recently watched, I think it was on Netflix, The Self-Made Story of
the story of C.J. Walker.
Yes, Madam C.J. Walker. And
yeah, that was some colorist shit.
Yeah, because so if you haven't watched it, I actually advocate that you do. I actually found a lot of stuff in there worth investigating and learning more about. But and this was months ago, but they were using terms like high yellow to talk about lighter, like passable women. And I had never heard that before. And I was like, oh, yeah, I had never had crossed. Never. And I was like, ooh, that hurts. That is gross.
Yep.
You know, and there's an element in that story because there's a fair-skinned woman who's selling hair products at Madam CJ Walker meets and actually like learn stuff from. And I don't want to ruin the series if you want to watch it, but you know, she's clearly the product of, you know, slave rape. And she's the product of her mother being, you know, forced upon by her slave owner. But she's still supporting her mother, who I think at one point gets a phone call from her mom who's like, you know, the master cursed me with a daughter, but at least she provides for me. So like there's this animosity even in blood ties because of this. And like that scene hurt me a lot. And I mean, I was like, ooh, like we're doing it to ourselves also. So and like
that's the thing that like so many people on the outside looking
don't understand or get or even acknowledge happens.
You know, and comedians, you know, broach this sometimes and they do it really well. You know, I mean, you know, Chris Rock has said it, Chappelle has said it, Dion Cole has said it. You know, they've all said in one way or another, and then have like whole skits around that like Black people are some of the most racist people because we're racist against our own. And everyone kind of laughs because like, oh, you can't be racist against yourself. Well, it's not.
Yes, you can.
Well, first of all, you can't, because racism is really about having a system structure set up to perpetrate things. And so, no, it can't be that.
So but you can be self-hating.
You can be self-hating, you can be bigoted, you can be prejudiced against your own. And I think that that's one of the things in general we need to do a better job of as a whole, is understanding what words actually mean as opposed to what we conflate them with.
I think that's a smart, yeah.
Because so many times people conflate, I am a racist or you are racist,
with you
with
are prejudiced.
you're prejudiced or you're a bigot. And they conflate them, and they do not mean the same thing.
All right, well, then break it down, because I actually don't think I know the difference between prejudice and bigotry.
Okay, so prejudice and bigotry are closer together than racism
and prejudice.
that any of them are.
Okay.
Prejudice is that I am judging you without knowing you based off of some categoristic thing. It could be your color, it could be your religion, it could be anything. But I am prejudging you, positive or negatively, based off of some characteristic I perceive about you.
Okay.
Bigotry is that I believe that I am superior to you based off of some characteristic or thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So a prejudice may not necessarily be bad, but I am simply prejudging you based off of, almost like in a stereotype way, I am prejudging you based off of some characteristic. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
So could that be, and I mean, we're just going to be real here, like, oh, like I have like some Asian American friends, and I had notions, and I say notions now, but maybe prejudices that, oh, because they're this, they are clearly going to be better at math than anybody else.
That is a prejudice. Okay. Now, if you as an Asian person believe that obviously you must be better at math and science because you're Asian, that's bigotry.
Oh, okay. Thanks, because I was not clear on the difference.
Set up to provide more for Asian folks so that they can excel at math and sciences, that does not also provide at the same level for any other ethnic group to do so. That's racism.
Got it.
So, but unfortunately, we conflate bigotry and prejudice and racism.
All under racism. As being this thing, when racism is much bigger than a prejudice or being a bigot. Or, I mean, any other synonymous things that you want to go down the road. So I think that first and foremost, we need to have an understanding. Like, everything starts with the understanding. And we have to have an understanding of, you can be prejudiced and not be a bigot. And you can not support and be part of a racist system. If you understand. So this is like a really weird master Venn diagram, like with 3 bubbles.
It's not a weird Venn diagram. It's a very simple one.
Okay.
It's a really, really simple one. Okay, you ever watched All in the Family?
Yes.
Okay, Archie Bunker. Is he a racist, a bigot, or does he have a bunch of prejudices?
I mean, doesn't he kind of have all of them? I mean, I always kind of figured he was a bigot, and I also kind of thought he was a racist.
How is he racist? How does he have the ability, using systems, to oppress somebody else?
Well, all right, he doesn't build the systems, but he benefits from the systems.
Hold on. Benefiting from the system is not.
All right, so then he's got prejudices and he's a bigot.
Exactly.
Okay.
But he's not a racist.
But he's not a racist.
He hits everybody equally, but he himself does not have any way to participate in a system that oppresses somebody else.
Okay.
Like,
that makes sense.
Oppress anyone throughout the entirety of the show. He talks a lot of shit. He calls his, Polish son a meathead, all these kinds of things. But he actually doesn't have a way to negatively hold anybody back.
So it's not like he has a business and he pays anyone who's not
correct.
X, Y, or... Okay.
It's not that he is forcing anyone to not be able to come into his neighborhood.
Got it.
Okay. He's got a bunch of prejudices, and he's a bit of a bigot. But he's not a racist. But many people equate him that way. And that's, a super simplified thing. And again, it's using media to do that. But I think that that's what's really important, is that we have to have the conversations and actually understand and all agree of what we're talking about. because racism is systemic. Racism is a system that unequally punishes one group versus another group of people because of what they look like. Okay, that is systemic. Racism is creating redlining so that you are drawing neighborhoods up, so that you are putting less funding into Black and brown neighborhoods, so that the schools are not as equipped, that they don't have the same resources as the schools where the fairer kids get to go, and therefore it is not an equal system. That is oppressive, that is systemic, that is racism. Yeah, you got some bigoted thoughts in there that like allow you to be like, this is something to do, for sure, but that is systemic oppression, and that is racism. And I think that's why so many people clutch their pearls when they're like, I'm not racist, I'm not oppressing anyone, I physically myself am not doing it.
Well, then you're not racist, but you are possibly prejudiced.
You absolutely probably have some prejudices.
And if you think you're better, then you're most likely a bigot.
Correct. And you may be benefiting from privilege because of who you are and what you look like.
But you didn't build it.
Racist system that you may not actively be pursuing that privilege, but you have to accept that you have it.
Right.
And accepting that you have privilege does not mean that you accept that you are racist, but it does mean that you understand that you are part of a racist system.
Right.
And I think those are the conversations that we need to have. And I think those are the things that will allow us to progress and move forward beyond the, I'm not a racist. Okay, I will tell everybody straight to their face, I'm not a racist. I have a bunch of prejudices. And there are times where I absolutely bigoted, because there are times where I'm just like, Black don't cry.
I mean, yes. Yes.
But the bigotry that I have is, I believe, not a harmful one. Because the bigotry that I have is all from a place of trying to overcome self-hatred stuff that I've been taught all my life. In the, Black is beautiful and I love my melanin. And my melanin is better than most things on the planet. At its core, that is a bigoted statement. But it is one that really is not designed to harm others. Not saying that your thing.
Nope, it's just meant to help you empower yourself. To not think less than yourself.
Empower myself and not think that my Black is less than. Which most of my life I spent a lot of time thinking. Okay.
So actually, you have now given me a great segue into. I was initially going to do these as story times, and I'm still going to do those.
We're not story time. I don't.
No. But you segued into a really good point. So, like I said earlier, I have been a perpetrator of having colorist ideals.
Mm-hmm.
And I've perpetuated those in my life. So owning up to that now.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, this happened in high school for me. Now, mind you, I went to high school in the less affluent side of our city, where a lot more minorities and the melting pot of culture was happening in.
I went to a predominantly white private Catholic high school.
Yeah, you did. And I didn't want to go there.
Yes, I didn't want to go there either.
I was adamant about not going where my sister was.
I also was adamant about not going there, but I didn't win. But then I did some things so you could win.
Right. Trailblazer. But, and I think I brought this up a couple of times in our tribunals before, where, when I finally got to high school and I saw faces like mine, like I was excited and happy. I was like, oh, I was meant to be here all along. Like, here is my throng. Here are my folks. And I get there and I'm met with, oh, no. You didn't go to school with us. You're not one of us. You look close, but no. You have to figure yourself out. And I had a schoolmate who was much fairer than I was, could very much pass. That is the polite way or the PC way that it was said back then. And, she was talented, still is, gifted, could sing, her voice could shake mountains. Like, had the grind, had the ambition. You couldn't knock her because she had the merit to back her shit up. But because she passed, she had a lot of the popular friends who most of the popular folks back then, like they were all white, had money, so like rich, stable, all that mess, and she was a part of that group. And like I said, did pass, but she had Black Daddy. And I automatically felt like she felt or thought that she was better than me. And I invoked that. I allowed that to be the narrative in our high school. And long story short, we were both in drama class. Like, we were both in drama after school because I love to act. I followed in your footsteps. You acted, and I thought, oh, I can act too. And, for the first few years of high school, I wasn't super confident in my ability, so I didn't like go for plays and stuff. But by junior year, I felt ready. And it felt like, to me, because she had been in drama all 4 years, had always acted, always sang, that she kind of had some power and some clout. And it always seemed like things that she was suggesting that the drama group do were ways to keep me from ascending.
Okay.
And the last year, our senior year, because we would go to competitions every year, and we would never make it past like preliminaries. We weren't that great, like, gonna admit it. It's also high school drama. Like, we're not professionals here. But come senior year, I decided I'm gonna compete. I'm gonna try out for the competition team. And I hear that this person already picked out a play that they were going to do. It had 4 roles in it, the amount of seniors who had been acting since freshman year, that she was pitching to the drama teacher because she didn't want any other seniors that may decide they want to try to compete this year and mess everything up. Granted, the drama teacher didn't go for it.
Okay.
I liked her a lot. I got onto the competition team. And that's the only year that drama team made it to the finals. We didn't win, but we made it. And at every competition, you get recognition. Like, there are awards for like best actress, best actor, best setting, all that type of stuff. And that senior year, I kept getting accolades at each of the rounds. And apparently those were accolades that she was getting before I started competing. And I got a lot of recognition at the after parties. Everyone wanted to know who I was, where I came from, how was I this good, and all this stuff. So all this limelight that she'd been accustomed to, I took away from her. And at not the finals, but at the semifinals, after we get on the bus, we're on our way home, I hear her say, oh, well, they're just giving it to her because she's like the only like visual Black person here at the competition. She's not really that good. I hear her say this, and I'm sitting with my best friend, and I am hurt because, one, I know you got a Black dad like I got a Black dad. Like, really? Like, you that mad? And I drew the line in the sand then. And I was like, we will never be friends. She does not see me as an equal. And I mean, in terms of singing, absolutely not. I need a bucket to hold a melody, okay? Like, I'll be the first one to admit it. But I went through the rest of high school with this preconceived notion that she thought she was better than me because she was lighter than me. And also, she had some talent that I didn't. And I never challenged her. I never confronted her about it. And I let that be the narrative. And for years, people were like, oh, you would have been such great friends with her if you'd only like tried. I'm like, no. I'm like, she made it quite clear to me that we were not the same and we were never going to be friends. And now here I am at 36 in the midst of this movement, looking back into myself, and I actually reached out to her and said, hey, like with everything going on right now, like we need to be united. And in order for us to do that, like I have to come clean about some stuff. I'm like, back in high school, like I thought all of these things. And if I made any of this up, which I'll take complete credit for if I did, because I'm not saying I'm innocent in this. But if you did any of these things that I am making I made an assumption that you did, could you own up to that? So like we could get to this stable level place of it wasn't just me gaslighting myself, and like there was some tangible, reason for this thought that I had, this fear that I had. And we had a melding of the minds. And it was beautiful. And it turns out we were a lot similar than we were different. And we have bridged that gap now.
Mm-hmm.
And we bridged that gap, and it was wonderful, and it felt like this weight had been lifted from my shoulders. And I wish I had done it, and I wish I had done it sooner. I really do. So I've had that I've had that judgment, I've had that prejudice, and I've been a part of the problem myself, like owning up to that.
Well, I think that that's really important, right? Like, if you look at being able to move forward at any point in time and doing it the right way, right? You have to be at a place where, like, legitimately, you are honest with the experience that you've had, the role that you play in it, and how that is perceived by others, and how you then drive the narrative forward beyond where you were and where you are. Right? And I think that that is the mark of growth. Right?
Took me like 12 plus years to finally get my head out of my own ass about it.
But it does require that. Like it does require that. In order to have that growth, you have to be able to look at a thing that you did before, recognize that it is something that needs to be different, to change, own it, again, see all the beauty and all the ugly that's in it, and then recognize that you want it to be different and put in the work to then make it different. Like that's what you have to do.
So I mean, if
like right now I have to look at the stream because I feel like
right now it's just me. It's the Amanda Show starring Amanda.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how and why like that's the case.
Right.
Because it looks to be that I'm a disembodied head, and yet in my studio I'm right here. I mean,
I don't see your head at all.
Yeah, it's very weird. So,
I know you're there, but still.
I'm so here. Like, and yet, I don't seem to be here, which is so weird.
I guess the point of my little adjacent tangent, very much like here at Black and Pat, I was enforcing an or when I should have been empowering an and.
Yeah.
And I'm now making those steps to correct that in my personal life. Now that I'm an adult and I drink what I want to drink, so I'm not just sipping on the Kool-Aid handed to me. I'm asking where this Kool-Aid came from. And, it was such a big step for me personally. And also, I think in the grand scheme of acceptance also. So I'm very glad that we did that, and I'm talking out to her. Not that I think she watches, but if she does,
But just in case she does.
If she does, I'm glad that we came to a common ground, and I'm glad that we had that meeting of the minds. So,
all right. So hold that thought. I'm gonna refresh here, which may break everything. But we're going to try, and we're going to see what happens.
Okay, great.
We're going to see if I come back.
Sure. Don't know what to do in the meantime. Is everybody doing okay? Like, everyone having a good day? Oh. I see you.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that I'm back.
I can't hear you yet, but I can see you.
Yep. I'm pretty sure.
I do not hear you. But I see you.
Okay, that's great that you can see me.
And now I can see you in our studio.
Okay, and can you hear me? Because you should be able to hear me.
I can.
Okay, great. So we've got all the things fixed because I'm pretty sure that I disappeared for the stream for your entire story, which is okay.
I mean, it was a me story anyway, so that's fine.
So but I do think that you bring up a really good point, and I think that that's a path that we should all be on. It's really the foundation of how we came to always and never or, is that there's always room for one more. There's always room for one more moment of healing. There's always room for one more person in the group. There's always room for one more perspective on a story. It doesn't have to be just this or just that.
For all the drama nerds out there, the world is wide enough.
It is. It really is. Okay. It doesn't have to be just cis white dudes in the lead of a hero story. I can be a hero. You can be a hero. Somebody that looks like me.
I am a hero. I'm a fucking national treasure.
I mean, okay, fine. Feel that way.
I'm also a bigot.
Absolutely. Also a bigot.
I have bigoted tendencies.
I do.
Sometimes.
I do. But I also try to be a caring and empathetic human being.
Samesies.
Okay. And so that's why, I hope that conversations like these can be inspired and inspiring, that you can start to have conversations like these amongst your friends and amongst your family. Because I think sometimes in pockets we do this, but we don't do it on a bigger scale. We don't do it with our elders.
You need to take it from your pocket and put it in a bubble, and then make that bubble bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's true. I think that, as we got older, we got to have some of these types of conversations with our mom, and it was just so eye-opening to hear her experiences. Because we used to give her shit all the time that she wasn't a black woman, that she was.
Oh, and she'd hate when I'm like, especially when I was like, Mom, you're not black. And she's like, yes, I am. Yeah. The rage behind her voice when I would challenge her.
Such a shitty thing that we did.
It was a very shitty thing. Like,
we didn't know, though.
We didn't understand.
We didn't understand.
I didn't
And then
really
when I
understand.
did, I felt really shitty.
I didn't really understand until in college. I read because I took an African American lit class.
I was about to say,
Which-
did you read Toni Morrison and that's when it changed?
No, I read Iola Leroy.
Okay. Yep.
And
because it's usually Tony or Ida.
Tony,
or,
James Baldwin,
yeah.
or anything James Baldwin or Iola Leroy, which
Yep.
is what I read.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, when I went to college and I took this course, I was like, wait, Black people write books?
Lord Jesus, really?
That's the reason why I took it. I'm like, really?
Right.
There's Black literature?
All right. Okay.
But I went and that was one of the books that we read in the class. And for those who don't know, you can go find this book and go read it. But it's essentially about a very light, pretty much lily white looking Black woman who her mother is Black, but she does not look anything like her mother. And the world opens up to her. Like, she can get all these things because of how she looks if she never acknowledges her background and her history and her heritage. But she decides, no, I'm as Black as my mother is or was, because I think at one point in the book her mom dies. And people at first don't believe her that her mom was Black at all. And she goes and she gets the history and she proves it. And the minute she does, the world turns on her. But she feels more connected to who she actually is by not hiding it.
So I'm taking it that you never saw Imitation of Life before you read this book.
No. Okay. Nope, I did not. Not until after. But after I read that book, I went home to my mother, who, like we just said, we said horrible things to our mother, not realizing the significance of what that meant.
Absolutely horrible they were.
And impactful they are to a person and their identity.
Yeah.
And I went back and I was like, I was a dick. I'm sorry that I did this to you multiple times. You know, and she was like, you didn't understand. I'm like, no, but I understand now. And with my knowledge, I'm coming to say I was an idiot. I'm sorry. Yep. But if you've never read it, I strongly suggest that you do. Also, I suggest you read Going to Meet the Man by James Baldwin.
Yes, personally. Definitely.
So, yeah, Black people write books.
Like a lot.
Like a lot.
Like a lot. Like so many books and poetry and, other things. I mean, just read all Baldwin and Ta-Nehisi Coates and like any interview with Nikki Giovanni. So much. But we'll touch on many of those things in other podcasts. I guess with this one, what I want to leave with is this is not the only conversation about colorism that we're going to have or that we're going to be a part of, because it is such a big thing to talk about. And there's not just one conversation that you should have with people around you about colorism. It affects so many people. So I encourage you, have the conversations, ask the uncomfortable questions. The answers that you'll get, they might not be comfortable, but they'll be from a place of honesty and they will help you understand. And really, to be better human beings, we need to understand each other better. So have these conversations and have other conversations with your friends. You know, I would say that, you know, in the last couple of months, I've been having some really fantastic conversations with some of my friends from different ethnic backgrounds and religious backgrounds, and just talking more about our experiences growing up and discovering how many things we have in common versus what we don't. And I encourage other people, have those experiences. And you can only have them when you have the conversations and you ask the questions. Like I right now am telling people there's no such thing as a dumb question other than, can I touch your hair? That's a dumb question.
I mean, it's not a dumb question, but I'm just going to say no.
It's a dumb question. Don't ask if you can touch my hair.
Well, like, no. If someone asked me, like, can I touch yours?
It's just like, exactly. Like this, but
I feel like the dumbest question is the question never asked.
Correct.
But I mean, if you're going to ask if you can touch my hair, how about you just assume don't touch me unless I give you express consent to touch me?
wrote a whole song about this, so you guys should know.
Don't touch
touch
my hair. It is my crown. It is
Okay.
my mane. Do
It is my
not,
glory. Do not
don't,
ask to touch my hair.
don't.
Okay? That's like asking, like, can I slap your nipple? No.
No.
No, you can't. No.
You cannot
You
unless
can't.
I tell
No.
you can.
You're not invited to this cookout. Okay?
Did you
The
get
only
an
people-
invite? Did you
Okay.
RSVP? No. Get
No.
out.
Do you want to know why? Because I didn't invite anybody to this cookout.
It's a cookout for me, myself, and I.
Okay, and I was the only one that was invited, and I still haven't RSVP to that shit.
I
And
mean,
it's my own party.
I'm a millennial, maybe in the best case.
Oh my god, here you go with the millennial thing. But we are definitely out of time for this conversation today, but we will be having it more. I really appreciate you listening into this conversation, whether you watched any of it live or if you picked it up on our YouTube channel later. Make sure that you check us out on all of our social and that you follow us across our platforms. We are on YouTube, youtube.com/blackandpat. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Black and Pat on all of those handles. We will be putting out more content on those channels. You'll be able to find out what our stream schedule is. It goes live every Monday. We're going to be better about it going out every Monday afternoon instead of Monday evening, but you'll know when we're streaming. We are always streaming on Wednesday and Friday here on Twitch at 7 p.m. with the Wind Down on Wednesday with me. And right now, playing through The Last of Us 2 on Friday with BC Manda from 7 to 9. So make sure that you stop through, come have a hang, we'll chill, we'll talk about game stuff. Maybe BC Manda won't die this week. Who knows? It could be a clean run.
I mean, no. Death is imminent. Death comes for us all.
It's going to be a fun time when we get through it. And then every other week on Sunday, here on our channel at 3, we have a tribunal where we talk about, the issues and what's going on in the world and how we're feeling about them, and invite you to join us in the conversation and share how you're feeling about them and to ask those questions that you want answers to. We might have the answers, we might not, but we can figure it out together. And I think that that's a great place for us to be versus anything else. So, the socials, the streams, where you can find us. And as always, you can check out our content that we have on our website at blackandpat.com. I am BC Manda. Oh, no, I'm not.
No, you're not.
You're BC Manda. I'm reading. And that's
Wow.
Identity theft. I did it.
Like fifth show in and you're already coming for me?
Hey, man. I mean, how many podcasts did we go through, Ash, before I had, my brain fart and I kept going, I'm Pandalicious?
I mean, it was a lot, but we haven't been doing the show this long. You should not be having this problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're BC Row. I'm BC Manda. We are Black and Pat.
Always and.
Never or.
Bye. Bye. I hit the button now.